Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks. On Thursday, the 22nd day of March, year of our Lord 2018, welcome to the John Moore Show. Breaking news. Well, there isn't breaking news of any particular consequence this morning. Let's see what's going on at Drudge Report. The Drudge Report the headline has to do with this adult entertainer, Stormy Daniels, has apparently done an interview with 60 Minutes that they're waiting to air that once they got all their ducks in a row with the attorneys and all that mess. And there's a photograph of her sitting there being interviewed. Okay, prepper tip of the day. I want to encourage all of you to develop your physical training routine, a physical training program for yourself, for your team members. It has to be appropriate for the person in terms of their age, their physical condition, their sex, and so forth. And just do it and make it a regular matter, a workout of 3 days a week or 4, whatever you choose. If there's any underlying health concerns, be sure that a medical doctor is consulted prior to implementing the physical training program. That's your prepper tip of the day. We're going to have open lines this first half hour. The call number is 800-313-9443. I ran across an article posted at Steve Quayle's website this morning. I'm going to be talking to Tim Spencer about getting this posted on my website. The article was published yesterday. The author, is Ray Starman, and it was published at the website usdefensewatch.com, usdefensewatch.com. The title of the article is, "Our Enemies Are Dying with Laughter." And there's a collage of photographs with what appears to be a male U.S. soldier sitting in a room somewhere and crying. We don't know the context of that. Then going to the right, there's 3 apparently U.S. female soldiers striking a combat pose in unarmed combat training, it appears. The photograph next to that is U.S. Army soldiers, male soldiers, wearing their combat uniforms and red high-heel shoes. I'm not sure what they were supposed to accomplish by doing that. Bottom left photograph, there's a U.S. male soldier in his combat uniform. He's someone is tying behind his back a article of clothing. It looks like a apron with a couple of female breasts sticking out the front and a pouch to give the impression that the soldier is pregnant. This is a U.S. military male soldier. This photograph next to that is apparently a happy young woman. She's smiling, wearing a U.S. Air Force camouflage uniform and holding a child to her left nipple that is suckling on her left nipple, nursing. And last but not least, lower right-hand corner, my favorite dictator, Kim Jong-un, with laughing, and he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, looks like 8 of his general officers there just laughing also. The implication being that they're laughing at American soldiers. As well they should be. I'm not going to read the article, but I will read the first sentence. It kind of sets the tone for the whole article. The road to total military disaster is being paved by feminists, Obama holdouts, and cultural Marxists who have infiltrated the armed forces at the highest levels in the last decade, while warriors have become an endangered species in the Pentagon. Right. I'm going to try to catch up with Command Sergeant Major Dan Page in the next few days. We got a couple of things we need to talk about anyway. I'm going to talk to Command Sergeant Major Page and see if he would consider giving testimony before the House Armed Services Committee. in full uniform, by the way. When he last time he had his full uniform put together in the Army, when you get to that level, the Army does it for you, by the way. He instructed the people put in uniform to not attach everything to the uniform he was entitled to have attached to it. That was his decision. He did it for his own reasons. He thought that would give him some advantage in some of the people he'd be dealing with wearing that uniform. And that was his decision regardless. I believe that Command Sergeant Major Page's testimony before a committee hearing in the House Armed Services Committee may actually have a positive impact. We have an opportunity now that we haven't had, since, for 30 years or more, I guess, to possibly reverse many, if not all, of the very harmful things that have been done in the U.S. military. This political correctness, this fantasy that women can and should be in combat arms, as opposed to where they've always served with distinction and honor, which is in the medical corps, which quite frankly is where women's talents and a woman's wherewithal, personality, and abilities is the best place for women to be. It's a fantasy. When we started these continuous wars back in 2001 that go on today in 2018, my belief at the time was that the body bags coming home with young women, that the women coming back with parts of their body missing, arms, legs, parts of their face. I thought that when that started happening, which of course it did start happening, that would spell the end of women in combat. It turned out I was completely wrong, of course. There was a woman named Amy England who was captured in Iraq. The son of a friend of mine was part of the force that rescued her, but she didn't need rescuing. But that's, we can talk about that also. She was made out to be a hero by the mass media. And she says herself she was no hero, and she points out the male soldier in her outfit who was a hero. Just to refresh your memory, this is back when we were invading Iraq. She was part of a convoy. Apparently the convoy got lost. How and why doesn't matter. And they came under fire. They were ambushed and came under fire. While the women and some of the men were attempting to retreat and get away from the firefight and avoid being captured, this young Specialist 4 male soldier was holding off however many Iraqi soldiers it was with his M16 that kept jamming, and that's going to be almost a given that the M16 is going to jam. In the meantime, Amy England was captured. She was injured. The Iraqi military, Iraqi government, took this young woman to an Iraqi hospital where she was given the best medical care that they could give her. She was not violated in any way. She was not mistreated. She was not harmed in any way. She was receiving the highest level of medical care that the Iraqi military and government could possibly provide for this young woman. And the U.S. military did rescue her from being captured. And like I say, the son of a friend of mine was part of the outfit, the group that went in and rescued this young woman from being captured. I noticed that the cultural Marxists referred to by Mr. Starman, the feminists, they waited until the World War II generation was out of the picture before they started implementing the full force of what they wanted to do. My personal experience, I went in the Army initially in 1967, 51 years ago, active duty to January 1970, left active duty. I came back in the U.S. Army Reserves in 1979, 9 years later. And the Army had already changed dramatically. And I was, after serving in Special Forces, when I first went back in the Reserves, I was transferred to my old outfit from Vietnam, the PSYOPs outfit. And that was my first experience with women in the U.S. Army. I'd never had any interaction or experience or even seen women in the U.S. Army except in the medical corps previously. And I recall we are on a training operation, and there was this female sergeant who was leading the, well, I think she was leading the patrol. And I'm watching this, this woman carry her M16. And she's got her fingers sticking straight out, as opposed to gripping the M16 in a proper manner that a person would hold on to it to make sure it was secure. And I said, Sergeant, what are you doing? And she says, well, I need to make sure my fingernail polish is dried. I said, oh, okay. Well, that's fine. That's what you got to do. And so we're on this training exercise, and we get out there, and we're setting up our camp, and there's porta potties set up at the edge of the camp. And I thought, well, this is strange. I've been on lots of field training exercises for, active duty. I never saw porta potties. We always had proper U.S. Army field sanitation facilities set up, which were slit trenches for relieving ourselves with a poncho, several ponchos strung up around the edges for privacy, and then pipes buried in the ground with one end sticking out for the men to relieve themselves into the pipes. And that's the way it was done. So we had porta potties out there in the field. And of course, we had the various rules to make sure the women were safe and that they would not be sexually assaulted or violated in some manner, which all those things to accommodate the needs of the women were certainly disruptive to the mission, the training mission. But that's the way it was. That's the way it still is. The article goes on to, at some point they're making fun of this, and then they do give some a very specific details here. The author says, feminists drove the Pentagon to authorize women to serve in the crown jewels of the military, the combat arms and special operations forces, that being infantry, cavalry, artillery, Rangers, Delta Force, and Navy SEALs. There was a TV series, and I may watch it again. I watched it initially, I think, about 2 years ago. The title of it was The Unit, and that had to do with Delta Force, U.S. Army Delta Force. I first heard about Delta Force was formed in 1977, and I first heard about it when I went back into the reserves in 79. And it was very hush-hush. It was hard to find out very much at all about who they were, because there was no official recognition that Delta Force even existed back then. Colonel Beckwith was in charge of it. He was in charge of setting it up and running it initially. So I was attracted by the opportunity there to be part of Delta Force and looked into it to the best of my ability without success. But Delta Force is known to being the best of the best when it comes to U.S. Army. The Army's equivalent of the Navy SEALs. You may think Special Forces, the Green Berets, are, but no, they're not. They're a great bunch of guys who have a lot of capabilities. But Delta Force is another level above that in terms of capabilities, training, and so forth. Having women in there is, well, not good. Not good. You're lowering the capabilities of the unit. You're setting them up for failure by having women in positions where they have no business being, and on and on. I'm getting various reports about General Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis, as he's sometimes called, and where he stands in all this. I would like to think that he would support getting the women out of these combat units. I don't know for a fact. It's the fact that he was not relieved of command by, well, him, and I may be misquoting myself here. Maybe he was relieved of command by Hussein Obama. I don't know. I would hope that President Trump would be taking a close look at the generals who were relieved of command by Hussein Obama as being a cadre of flag rank officers, generals and admirals that could be brought back on active duty to get our military where they need to be. The same article here, and I read this in the Army Times recently, 100,000 of the U.S. Army soldiers are not capable of being deployed. That's a big chunk. It's not quite half, I don't believe. This may be a third or so of the U.S. Army soldiers are not capable of being deployed. What's the point? Why are they even there if they can't be deployed for physical or mental reasons? Why are they even there drawing a paycheck? Of course, who they're drawing from, the general population for new soldiers, is another matter altogether. 71% of Americans between the ages of 18 and 25 cannot enlist in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. They can't. 71%. I mentioned this earlier this week, I believe. You may say, well, John, what's the big deal? Here's the big deal. It affects our general welfare, how it affects our future, because that is our future. And these standards that 71% can't pass, these standards are dramatically reduced from what they were half a century ago in terms of physical and mental capability. Dramatically less. I don't have any studies or any way to say with any certainty what the percentage would be if we had those standards half a century, except it would be dramatically less than the 71%. Okay, here's our break. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at theliberty. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 22nd of March. If you plan on being in Dallas this weekend, I hope to see you there at the Watchman Conference in Dallas. If you would like to save $20 on the ticket price, there's a discount code there on the banner at my website at thelibertyman.com. Get $20 off the ticket price. If you can't attend in person, there's a 20% discount on the live feed version of the conference. Look forward to seeing you there. I will be the keynote speaker at the luncheon on Saturday. It'll be a lot of fun. The U.S. Army is dropping the requirement for soldiers to be able to use a map and compass. I guess the presumption is that the two things, the GPS satellites will always be working, and that the soldiers in the field will always have a functioning GPS unit. Well, here's the real reason. I've taught map reading courses for more than 25 years, and to women, men and women, many men and many women, several hundred. And my personal observation is that 98% of women don't get it. They have great difficulty comprehending and being able to use a map and compass. Conversely, 2% of men don't get it. 98% of men do get it relatively quickly. It's a male-female thing. Anybody who's taught map and compass reading knows exactly what I'm talking about. And that's the way it is. The Army's also dropping the requirement to throw a hand grenade, because most women can't do that either. Can't throw a hand grenade far enough to keep from hurting themselves. So, if they can, and I know that's true of all the standards. This goes back decades. Any standard, all standards, I should say, have either been modified so that the females can do them, or eliminated altogether, that the females can't do them. That's the way it is. And we, the U.S. military, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, we have become the laughing stock of the other militaries in the world, with the exception of places like Sweden, Canada, which have gone down the same road of feminizing their militaries. We have a very small military to begin with. Right now, overall strength is about the same, maybe slightly less than it was on December 7th, 1941, which is a very small military. This needs to change. This needs to change. You may have seen this photograph also. It's a photograph of about 16 or 18 young women who had parts of their bodies blown off in Iraq and Afghanistan. And they're all in civilian clothes, and they're all got the biggest smiles on their faces. Happy to be alive, I guess. And you can see the prosthetics that they've got, where they used to have legs and feet. They now have prosthetics. How insane is that we intentionally put the women in combat by design with intent? It's not the world I grew up in. The world I grew up in, the girls were the cheerleaders and the boys were in a football field. Now we actually have girls on the football field. How insane is that? They have no business being there. Sometimes they're put in the position of the kicker. I've seen this firsthand. There's no doubt that a young woman can kick a ball. Of course she can. There's also no doubt that the kicker is a target of really big guys running really fast. They're doing their best to knock her down before she kicks that ball, which does occasionally happen. And my question is to the parents of this young woman: what are her fallopian tubes designed to take the impact of 500 pounds? That would be two football players. 500 pounds of muscle and bone hitting her as hard as I can possibly hit her? What's the answer to that question? Well, I think it's obvious what the answer is. The organs of any young woman, in my opinion, should not be subjected to what amounts to a low-impact automobile accident. I don't believe that's proper. I don't believe it's just. I don't think it should happen. On the other hand, they take this kind of punishment, get up and go for more. That's what I did. That's a football player. We got a bottom of the hour break coming up here momentarily, and we hope to have Tom Berryhill with us and talk about the energy cleaner. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our Energy Cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the Energy Cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the Energy Cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. All right, we are back. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 22nd of March. Thursday mornings, the second half hour of the first hour, we talk about the Energy Cleaner. Tim Spencer has a day off today. Usually we have Tom Berry. He'll call in. He hasn't called yet, but if he does, we will bring Tom on board, and we'll be talking about the Energy Cleaner, a marvelous healing device. That's what the Energy Cleaner is. I got an email from a friend, a young man, a gentleman I go to church with. He's borrowing an Energy Cleaner to determine how it's going to affect his garden and his seedlings. The initial report that I got, he's got a group of test plants, the control plants are not getting the Energy Cleaner, and then he's got the test plants that are getting the Energy Cleaner signal. And the photographs show a dramatic difference between the two groups. The group getting the Energy Cleaner signal are twice as big and twice as many seedlings as the seedlings who do not get the Energy Cleaner signal. And the photographs are taken, I think there's about 6 of them taken, maybe 4 or 5 taken a few days apart to show the progress on the plants. Looks like we do have now with us Mr. Tom Berryhill, the manufacturer of the Energy Cleaner. And Tom, good morning, sir. Let's have our disclaimer.
Hi, John. Good morning. We are not doctors or medical professionals. We don't diagnose, treat, or cure any illness or disease. The information discussed today is for your education and entertainment only. If you have a medical condition requiring treatment, you should utilize the services of a medical doctor, chiropractor, or other competent practitioner.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. I was talking about my neighbor who's using an Energy Cleaner for his seedlings, and he had to apologize toward the end of his note that he mistakenly left the seedlings out overnight when it got down in the low 20s, and it pretty much killed them all off. But he even then he observed that the seedlings getting the Energy Cleaner signal, they survived longer after the freeze than the plants that did not. So he's starting over with new seedlings now, and looking forward to see more results and take more photographs. And we'll get those photographs posted on my website, Tom, so people can see the difference between seedlings getting the Energy Cleaner signal and seedlings that don't get the Energy Cleaner signal. This is not news to you and I, Tom, is it?
No, it's not, John, but this is the first time I've heard that the Energy Cleaner actually made the seedlings last longer in cold weather, the cold temperatures. I wasn't aware that it would do something like that, so that's good to know. Well,
it stands to reason if they're hardier and stronger that they would survive a little bit better. They ended up dying also, but it just took a couple of days longer than the ones that did not get the Energy Cleaner signal. So as we move forward into the spring, we'll be getting more reports and more photographs of these plants as the seedlings become plants and then grow to maturity and start bearing fruit. I don't recall what kind of plants they were, but regardless of what kind of plants they were, I'm looking forward to getting these reports and the photographs and being able to post them on my website. Tom, the energy cleaner, you've been working with this project now. This is year number 18, I believe, isn't it?
That's correct, John. The first units were designed and produced in March of 2000.
Well, it goes a ways back there, and the success we've had, you and I, is phenomenal. Shipping these units all over the world, with the exception of the Antarctic. We always make fun of whether there's any at McMurdo Station or not, but given how brilliant many of those men and women are down there, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a couple of energy cleaners. Regardless, the energy cleaner, ladies and gentlemen, is a healing device, an electronic healing device. It's not a Rife machine. It's not a TENS unit. It's entirely different technology. Somebody was talking to me the other day, Tom, about how he couldn't measure any voltage coming out of it. And I said, well, that's because there's no voltage coming out of the energy cleaner. That's why you can't measure it. It puts out a signal. A signal that goes to every cell in your body, and flushing out toxins, bringing in fresh nutrition. Tom refers to it sometimes as being jumper cables for your cells in your body, which in a sense they are. Jumper cables for every cell in your body, flushing out toxins, bringing in fresh nutrition. And we focus on two things publicly: pain mitigation, that could be joint pain, arthritis pain, back pain, doesn't matter, and getting a great night's sleep. If people could just get those two things, Tom, they'd be well on the way to optimal health and well-being, wouldn't they, sir?
Yes, John, that's very true. And to the customer that has a problem measuring the output radiated signal, that can be measured, but it takes a special instrument called an electrometer. I use a Keithley Instruments 6517B. That's the model number of that instrument, and it will pick up that signal. To test them, I set up a metal grid that's 1 meter, about 39 inches square, and then I can measure that signal with another pickup probe that's a few feet away, 2 or 3 feet away, and we can watch the polarity change and everything else that's happening with it. So that's how we test them. It's possible, but those instruments are expensive. You can't do it with a regular voltmeter or a digital voltmeter or anything like that. They just will not pick it up.
Right.
But an electrometer will.
Right. Well, that's the mistake people make, and I know another thing that people think when they first see it, they think there has to be two wires, one for the signal going out, the other for the signal coming back, and people think there's something wrong with it when it doesn't have two wires, right, Tom?
Yes, that's right. Everybody assumes there's a ground connection. You need a return path, but we're not dealing with an energy flow. We're dealing with a radiated signal. It's you could almost look at your cell phone for a similar explanation. Where's the ground wire for that cell phone? There is an antenna in there, and it radiates a signal back to the tower. It receives signals from the tower, but there's no ground connection. The energy cleaner is the same way. It radiates the voltage signal. And it does act as a set of jumper cables for every cell in your body. Of course, if a cell is operating properly, the signal's there if it needs it, but in most cases, a healthy, functioning cell doesn't need any assistance, so it just ignores the signal. But it's the weak cells that are clogged up, plugged up, not pulling in the nutrition and pushing out toxins. Those are the cells that need the extra help, and those are the ones that receive it when the energy cleaner signal is available.
Absolutely. Well, if you go to my website, ladies and gentlemen, at thelibertyman.com, you can see a photograph of the energy cleaner. You can read up on the patent application details. You can read the excellent testimonials from people we know, like Mr. Steve Whitman. And once you've done that, you need to think about, well, do I want to have less pain in my life? Do I want to get a great night's sleep every night? If you do, then go ahead and make your decision. Check out the energy cleaners. Check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads that go with the energy cleaner. Then go ahead and make your purchase using PayPal, MasterCard, Visa, American Express, Diners Club. People send me checks all the time. My address to send a check is right there at my website, also at thelibertyman.com. Making it as easy as possible, we also have a toll-free order line. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. We recommend also, when you get your energy cleaner, go to the dollar store and get the dollar store house brand batteries. They work the best. The carbon, carbon fiber, carbon zinc batteries. Change them out. I put a paper tag on my energy cleaners to let me know when I need to change the batteries, which is once a year. That's mainly to make sure there's no damage from leakage, isn't there, Tom? Or at least minimal if there is any.
Yes, that's right. But in the event that there is battery leakage, if you catch it early enough, it will not damage the instrument. It's very simple to clean it out. You can use damp paper towels, clear everything out, maybe scrub it a little bit with a small brush if needed, and again, damp paper towels to wipe it, wipe the residue out, and if the contacts of the battery springs have any contamination, you can clean them with some fine grit sandpaper if needed, and it will function again just perfectly.
Right. Well, that's what I've seen. I've seen other devices have had battery damage, and initially it's a liquid form that can be wiped right out. I like to use WD-40 also for cleaning electronics. Regardless, it needs to be cleaned out. Make sure there's no damage to the contacts. There's a spring on one end and a contact on the other end for the positive end of the battery. And change those batteries once a year, and you're good to go. Mattress pads that go with the energy cleaner, they're machine washable. All you need to do is unplug the wire that plugs into the mattress pad and put it in the washing machine like you would your regular sheets and mattress pads. Wash them in the same manner and make sure they're good and dry. And you're good to go then, Tom, aren't you?
Yes, that's right, John. And it's this instrument is so simple to set up. It's simple to use. And again, like we just described, if there's any problems, it will be battery leakage, and that's because you left the batteries in there too long, or the batteries were no good when you put them in. I've seen brand new packages of batteries that had leakage inside the package. They weren't even used yet, and the batteries are no good.
Amazing.
So as long as you can get that residue cleaned out of there and put fresh batteries in it, it will run just fine. And we always recommend maybe putting a sticker on there as soon as you get the energy cleaner. Put a sticker on there with a date, a year down the road, and that gives you a good idea of when to change those batteries. I had one gentleman tell me that he put it in his cell phone. He has some sort of a calendar feature in there that would set off an alarm and alert him when to change those batteries. Even though it was a year in advance, he was able to put that function in his phone and will let him know the exact day to change them.
Okay.
So I thought that was pretty handy.
Well, good for him. I'll stick with just a paper tag on the side of the unit. I've got I'm not sure how many energy cleaners my family is using right now. I think 3 or 4 Tom for different purposes. But a paper tag works fine for me, and I just change them out when the date is approaching, and we're good to go. If you've got a question or comment about the energy cleaner, give us a call. If you are using the energy cleaner and got some results you want to report, give us a call at 800-313-9443. It's helpful for people to hear these independent reports from people getting success, isn't it, Tom?
It really is. And it's amazing some of the stories that we do here, John. The benefits that people have received from using this technology. It's very simple in its use, but very powerful at the same time. And the stories that we get and have received over the years, some of them are just absolutely amazing. Of course, One of the better-known ones was from Steve Whitman, and
Right.
you have him on frequently, and he tells his story, which is the whole thing is just amazing. And then,
It
of
is.
course, his wife had lupus, and that totally went away. That's very good for her. And other people that have had serious pain problems have obtained total relief, and they can function again. I hear typically people will usually get results in 2 or 3 days. Some people, John, tell me that they have they've noticed the results in less than an hour, and everybody's a little bit different. So
Right.
it's going to vary, but you offer a money-back guarantee with plenty of time to really try this out
More
and
than
see how
enough.
it's going to
More
work for
than-
you. Oh yeah, more
Right.
than enough.
Well, I talked to Steve Whitman earlier this week. His next book is in the final stages of being ready for release on Amazon. I'll be talking to him early this coming week and see if he's ready to come back on the following Thursday, a week from today. His story is so phenomenal and so important for people to hear it. How he gives the energy cleaner and myself credit for saving his life. And of course now saving his wife's life is also because the medicine you take for lupus, if you take it long enough, makes you go blind, doesn't it?
That's what we hear, and that's I guess being blind is better than being dead. So people take the medication and hope and pray for the best outcome. But in Steve's wife's situation, she was able to reverse the lupus problem, and as far as I know, she continues to test negative for lupus. So that's really good. And the only
Right.
thing that we know, John, is that she used the energy cleaner. She just
That's
happened
right.
to be on. She didn't even set out to do that. She just happened to be on the same pad, and it worked for her by doing nothing more than sleeping on that thing on a daily basis.
Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, you need to study up on this, learn about it, and make a decision. And don't procrastinate. I talk about energy cleaner procrastinators occasionally. It's become almost a running joke among listeners on the John Moore Show about the energy cleaner procrastinators. But this is a real phenomenon where people will be suffering from pain, not getting a proper sleep, and they think about the energy cleaner, they ponder it, they wonder, as opposed to making a small leap of faith, and with a 90-day money-back guarantee, it's a very small leap of faith to go ahead and call my toll-free number, get that energy cleaner shipped off to them so they can start getting relief. And incrementally, one by one, men and women and couples, they make this decision, they place their order, and then I hear back from them a couple of weeks or a month later, John, I wish I hadn't waited so long. How many times have you heard that, Tom?
I can't
You
count,
don't
John.
even, you can't count. You can't count.
No,
John,
yeah,
I
you,
wish
you hear it quite.
Right. John, I wish I had not waited so long. And even Tim Spencer, he procrastinated for 2 weeks before he finally, I did everything except tuck him into bed and hand him a cup of hot cocoa. The energy cleaner had the batteries in it. I had a screen pad all rolled up and ready to go, and he still waited 2 weeks. And he regrets losing those 2 weeks. 2 weeks of productive life that he would have had and didn't have. And people listening right now are missing days and weeks of fun, happy, productive days because of procrastination, Tom, aren't they?
That's right. Time to do it is now. Get one.
Absolutely. Here's our break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 22nd of March. Well, during the break, maybe you thought to yourself, I wonder if John's talking about me. Am I an energy cleaner procrastinator? Think about it. Are you? Well, if you're not getting a great night's sleep and you have pain issues, well, you're an energy cleaner procrastinator. I would toll-free our line to take care of that. I do. Seriously. Toll-free our line to place your order for energy cleaners and mattress pads. We have twin, full, queen, king, California king, the handy travel size, which I'll be using on my trip to Dallas this weekend. Here's that toll-free order line, 24 hours a day, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Well, Tom, our business, it's your business, it's my business of helping people get their lives back, helping people to live the life that they want to live, happy, fun, full, productive life, as opposed to one focused on pain. And as you and I both know, Tom, at some point the pain takes over your life, doesn't it?
Function when you're in constant pain. It's not a good situation to be in. And, of course, we've heard from so many people that have been confined to their home. They couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything. They use the energy cleaner to help with that pain, and in a short period of time, they were able to get out of their home and go fishing, golfing, go to social events, and get their life back. It's amazing some of the stories that we have heard, John, and then so many of these people move forward with complete pain relief, and they don't want to talk about it anymore. They just want to forget about that part of their life in the past, all these pain issues, and they go forward and never look back, so we don't even hear from them. But occasionally people will tell us their story and how well it's worked for them, and those are always interesting to hear. But it's typically the same thing. No more pain, everything back to normal, thank you so much. We need one or two more units for other family members and friends. That's usually when you hear from them, when they want additional energy cleaner units to help others.
Right. Well, and I'm finding it now, this is my 8th year working with you, Tom, that I would say half my sales are the people who've already bought one or more. That's about half of what I do. And the other half, of course, are being the newbies who stopped procrastinating and decided they're going to take a chance. They're not risking anything because I have a 90-day money-back guarantee, but they're going to take a chance and go ahead and get themselves an energy cleaner, and they're so happy and so pleased. And then within 3 days to a week, they're wondering, why did I wait so long? Right, Tom?
Yes, that happens quite often. Yes,
it does.
Yes. And of course, we don't have a lot of time left, but I want to encourage anybody that is involved in gardening or any type of activities like that to really consider the energy cleaner to assist in the garden and greenhouse.
Absolutely. Tom, thank you, sir. We look forward to having you back next Thursday, and we'll talk then. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Okay. Top of the hour break. We'll be back. Stay tuned. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 22nd of March. Prepper tip of the day. I want to encourage all of you to develop for your own customized physical training routine for yourself, your team members. Work with your team members to find out what goals they want to achieve. Make sure that if a medical physical is necessary, that's taken beforehand. We don't want to cause any injuries here to people. And then move forward to make sure that you have a physical training program for yourself and have one for each one of your team members, and that will help everybody to make sure everybody's is in the best physical condition that they can be. And if you're moving on foot, I should say, you can go no faster than the slowest person. That's a truism. When you're moving on foot, you can go no faster than the slowest person. So make sure that the slowest person can motivate, ambulate to good enough to not slow down the whole group too much. That will help you out if you're out there in the field and have to move cross country. Okay, we'll take your questions, calls, and comments here at Republic Broadcasting at 800-313-9443. And we're going to continue our discussion from the first hour about this fantasy that the U.S. military is engaged in, this brilliant fantasy with the belief that women can perform equally to men in combat roles. It's an absolute fantasy. It puts the young women at risk. It puts the young men at risk who, both for a couple of reasons. First of all, men tend to be, normal men, I should say, tend to be protective of women, which would be distracting. And second of all, women themselves cannot perform many of the things that a soldier needs to perform in combat. They simply can't. They don't have the strength. Plus, there's the additional aspect of having women in leadership roles. Women most women, most of the time, tend to make decisions based on emotion as opposed to logic. That's most women most of the time. Most men, most of the time, tend to make decisions based on logic. In my opinion, and I am a combat veteran, in my opinion, making decisions based on emotion has no place on the battlefield. They simply don't. It's going to cause mission failure. It's going to cause needless loss of life, and on and on. That's what it will cause. You can count on it. I'm sure it's already happened, but the U.S. military has been very good at keeping the downside on the QT, not letting the mass media find out, not letting the American people find out the many, many ways that integration of females into the Corps has been to the U.S. military. While the opportunity has come and gone to use these wars, these never-ending wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, to get the women out of the military, that opportunity has been missed, unfortunately. Now it's going to be up to the legislative process and President Trump. Compared to the other things President Trump's dealing with, this is probably not real high on his list. I would be shocked if it was real high on his list. I hope it's high enough on his list if something happens. I was just reading yesterday, it's kind of a side note, talking about President Trump. There's still more than 7,000 Obama appointees in the Trump administration. That's the nature of the beast he's fighting against. That's probably a bit more relevant and a bit more important right now for President Trump than dealing with the females in the Corps. Hopefully he'll get around to it. Being the executive, he could issue verbal orders or written an executive order to command others to do these things on his behalf. That's what being an executive means. And hopefully he will do so. Maybe he already has. The belief that mentally ill people should be allowed to serve in the military, which means homosexuals should be allowed to is wrong, I believe. I don't believe they should be there. These mentally ill people. Mentally ill men who think that they're women and want to become women. Mentally ill women that want to become men. That's a psychosis. Of course it is, on the face of it. No doubt whatsoever. Oh, it's not in the manual anymore? Is that what you're telling me? Oh, John, it's not in the diagnosis manual for mental illness anymore. No, it's not, because they took it out. That didn't change it from being a mental illness. They simply took the pages out as if they'd never existed. How handy. How very handy. I don't believe very many U.S. military members going to a foreign country would like being made fun of, but that's what's happening. Other militaries, like I say, with the exception of Canada and Sweden, maybe a few other places that have become too politically correct, So very, very politically correct. These other countries, most other countries, make fun of us. How humiliating that we have women who want to become men. We have men that want to become women. We're forcing these men to take classes. They're all this political correct stuff. I believe the agenda was to force the alpha male warriors out of the military, which of course they've done to a large extent, and prevent alpha male warriors from joining the Corps in the first place, which I'm sure is happening more and more. Of course it is. Now, the alpha males are the ones that win the battles. The alpha males are the ones that win the wars. That's no secret. That's no secret. It's also no secret that in peacetime, the alpha males don't do too well. It doesn't matter what their level is, what their rank is. They don't do too well in peacetime. They don't fit. They don't fit into society. They're too rough around the edges, too willing to speak their mind in the open. So I believe the thrust of what's been going on since the mid-1970s. Let's see, the first female cadet showed up at West Point, I'm going to say around 1976, 77. A friend of mine I served with in Special Forces, he was there as a cadet. I think he was a junior or a senior when the first female plebe showed up. That had to be it was a historic event. And he told me the following. He says, John, the training rifle at West Point since 1959 has been the M14, the rifleman's rifle, my favorite rifle. And all the cadets are required to do what's called the manual of arms. You've seen them do this. Maybe watch the guards, ceremonial guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, doing the manual of arms. Left shoulder arms, right shoulder arms, present arms, order arms, inspection arms. You know, when you do inspection arms, the rifle is at your right side, being held there with your right hand. You pick the rifle up, cross your body at a 45-degree angle. Hold the front of the stock with the left hand while you take the right hand, and using what's called the knife edge of your right hand, push that mechanism backwards and reach over with your thumb to lock it in place and place that right hand on the pistol grip and then hand it to the inspecting officer. That's how inspection arms is done. Not a single female cadet, I should say, had the strength at West Point to be able to do what I just described. Not a single one. And they did a nationwide search to find the most athletic, brightest young women that they could to become 18-year-old plebes. I think that's what they call the freshmen here at West Point, plebes, at West Point U.S. Military Academy. Well, here we have a quandary, don't we? We have the commandant of the West Point requiring all cadets to do the manual of arms. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, no big deal. We got the U.S. Congress mandating the women get there as cadets. We got the rifles themselves. So what can we change? We can't change what the commandant requires. We can't change what Congress requires, number two. We can't change the women because they're as strong as they're going to get. These young women, they're very athletic. Number four, what's left to change? That's the rifle itself. So they did this in the 1970s, and the same rifles are still being issued to the cadets right today on March 22nd, 2018. Not quite 40 years later. Well, I guess it is about 40 years, isn't it? Yep, it is right at 40 years, 1977 or so. Regardless, they took those rifles issued to the women to the armorer at West Point and said, Mr. Armorer, I want you to cut out sections of this recoil spring until the recoil spring is weak enough that the women can overcome the backward pressure on that spring. So they did that. And at that point, of course, the rifle was no longer a rifle. It's just something that you can look at, a decorative item, a facsimile of a rifle, but it's no longer a rifle because you can't shoot it anymore. So that was done 40 years ago. And today, on March 22nd, 2018, the female cadets at West Point are using the very same rifles with the recoil springs weakened so that they can cock the rifle and make it ready for inspection. Everybody knows it. Everybody at West Point knows the women can't do what the men do. Everybody knows that a male student with similar strength would be sent home to his mama. And everybody also knows that regardless of how weak the women are, they're still going to pass. There's a young woman I know, she was recruited, a very bright young woman. She was recruited to become a cadet at West Point. She didn't have any particular desire to be a soldier. That was not on her playlist, not at all. But they made it so attractive to her, and letting her know that she can get this free, high-level education at West Point if only she would sign on the dotted line and become a female cadet there. That's all it would take. And she did. She graduated in a 4-year program. She had the commitment to be an officer in the U.S. Army for 5 years. Following that graduation, that's one of the hooks they have. They hope that at the end of 5 years, she'll decide to make it a career. Well, she decided to become a stay-at-home mom. That was the end of that. And she's quite happy as a stay-at-home mom. Her and her husband run a dairy farm, and they're living the dreams. Good lady, wonderful family. My goal is to see our young women not in harm's way. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, I'm a little stick-in-the-mud dinosaur, I don't know. It's just the way John Moore is wired, is to make sure the women are safe. That's the way I'm wired. I don't know about you. That's the way I'm wired. This needs to happen. I hope that Donald Trump will do it on his watch. I can only hope at this point. I don't know what the man's going to do. So far, he's been very diligent about carrying out his campaign promises, and he's doing a great job, in my opinion. Unemployment is at record lows. People's incomes are up. I just read where there's 700,000 new millionaires in the United States this past calendar year, 27. I think it was 2017. It may have been 2016. That's a good thing. 700,000 new millionaires. That's great. I'm not one of them. I'm working hard to become one, but I'm not one. So, it's time for people to come together as a people, as a country, and say to the president, say to the House Committee on Defense, let them know that we want our women protected. We don't want our women carrying M16s and wearing helmets and body armor going into combat. We don't want that. It's time to let these entities know that. That really is. Pastime. I encourage you to get this article, pass it along to your friends, wherever they may be, by email or Facebook, whatever it takes. I'm going to see if there's a Facebook way to forward this thing here. It's a very well written article. I was really happy to read it. And I'm scrolling down here to see if there's a way to forward this. I already sent it to Tim Spencer. Let's see if I can get some more widespread notoriety. One of my buddies, a Special Forces veteran, he does a lot of posting for some of the Green Berets here in St. Louis. And maybe I'll get a copy of that to him. If you have an opinion or question or comment, give us a call at 800-313-9443. What have we come to? What have we come to? What has the dramatic changes in our society where it's socially and legally acceptable to have women in combat positions, to be drafting women? If the selective service is put back into operation, it could be done in a matter of a few days, by the way. If the selective service goes back in operation, they will be drafting women. You can count on it. That's already been talked about. That's already been decided, unless President Trump intervenes. Here's our break. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. Thank you. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 22nd of March. The Hear the Watchman Conference, it will be this weekend in Dallas, Texas. If you plan on being there, I hope to meet you at the luncheon. I will be the keynote speaker at the luncheon Saturday. If you want a $20 discount, go to my website, get the $20 discount code there for the live event. If you cannot attend in person, there is a 20% discount for the live streaming. So check that out at my website at thelibertyman.com. Okay. It never occurred to me when I was going through basic training in 1967, active duty in Vietnam, active duty in the U.S. Army Special Forces. It never, ever occurred to me that women would be serving in the combat arms. That was not anything that I could even conceive of as being a possibility. You know, we don't put the cheerleaders on the football field. We keep them where they are in their proper place as cheerleaders. We don't do that. We don't put the girls in harm's way. We protect the girls. That's the world I grew up in. I don't know about you. We give. I was trained by my father and my grandfather, both my grandfathers, to give women special status, to open doors for them, to treat them with kindness and courtesy, and to protect them. Most of all, to protect them. To protect my mother, to protect the other women in our family, my wife, my daughter, my granddaughters, to protect the women. That's the job of the men, is to protect the women, keep them out of harm's way, to make sure that no harm comes to them, not to let them go into combat. How insane is that? What an absolute turnaround of American culture for that to even be considered, let alone happen. I would not even challenge a woman's sense of loyalty or patriotism to our country. That's not the issue. Far from it. Women clearly and obviously are just as patriotic and honorable as men. Of course they are. That's not even a topic of discussion. The topic is, point of discussion is, where women can be, where they should be in the U.S. military. They shouldn't be in combat in any way, shape, or form, not by design, not by intent. Now, we've had, I know during Vietnam, we had some nurses killed in combat. World War II, Korea, same thing. I'm sure World War I, the same thing. You know, things are going to happen. You're in a war zone, you're subject to being injured, killed. Of course you are. But to place women there with intent, that's wrong. That is simply wrong. People point to the Israeli military. Well, in 1947, tiny little Israel, was surrounded by millions of screaming Muslims that wanted to murder all of them. Of course women are going to serve in combat positions. But once that was over, they took them out and put them where they belong, in non-combat roles. We have thousands of years of recorded human history, which includes a lot of recorded human history regarding wars. No country's ever done what we're doing that I'm aware of. I'm no scholar when it comes to the history of warfare. Maybe more than some, not as much as others. People will point out the exceptional women here and there who was in combat and performed admirably. Those are facts. That's true. Those things have happened. I'm sure the majority of women that have served in Iraq and Afghanistan did so with honor and distinction. But what's the point? Why are they there in the first place? Are we so short of healthy young males that we are forced to bring women into the Corps? That's what they're saying, by the way. These politically correct officers are saying we have no choice. If we want the best of the best, we have to bring in mentally ill homosexuals. We have to bring in women into the Corps because we have no choice. I disagree. I disagree. I do agree that there's some serious issues facing our nation. When 71% of the young women and young men are not eligible to enlist in any branch of the military, that's an absolute dismal failure there. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our energy cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the energy cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. Okay, we are back. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 22nd of March. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. I continue to get inquiries, people asking, John, when's it going to happen? What's it? When's it going to happen? Violent earth changes, World War III, coronal mass ejection. Well, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. But I picked a date for you to get ready for it by, and that's December 31st, 2018. There's a article I wrote at my website, and let's see. It's right there on the right side of my homepage. And it's Field Training Exercise, USS Liberty, December 31st, 2018. I list 5 different scenarios that you can prepare to get ready for and give you a date to get ready by, December 31st, 2018. How about that? So now you no longer have an excuse, do you? You got a date. Also, my website, of course, are energy cleaners for sale. This is my home business. I work with the manufacturer, Tom Berryhill, directly. I pick up 10 a week. I sell about 10 a week, depending on some more some week than others. And get these all over the country and all over the world. We ship them to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, England, Ireland, France, Germany, so forth. Energy cleaner, healing devices. If you got issues with arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, you need an energy cleaner. Don't procrastinate. What's the point? I offer a 90-day money-back guarantee. That's from me to you personally, a 90-day money-back guarantee. I don't have to refund very much money, by the way. About 4 units a year out of the hundreds I sell. About 4 a year. And I always wonder if those 4 people ever actually used them. The mattress pads that go with the energy cleaner, it's a great combination. That's what most people are doing these days. At the get-go, they're getting themselves an energy cleaner. They're getting a pad to fit their bed. The twin, full, queen, king, California king at the get-go. All the details are right there at my website at thelibertyman.com. When you place your order, I'm the guy that boxes them up. I take them to the little country post office at Cherryville, Missouri, where every Friday you can get an all-you-can-eat catfish buffet with sides, beverage, and dessert for $7.95. I have a toll-free order line. Keep in mind, you can pay with PayPal at my website. That's handy. It's as safe as anything can be, paying with PayPal at my website at thelibertyman.com. And my toll-free order line is handy also. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Taking your questions, calls, and comments here at Republic Broadcasting. I've been talking in this show about the need to no longer have mentally ill people in the military. They're issuing guidelines for what women, how to deal with women who are uncomfortable with men taking showers with them. What's wrong with this picture? I seriously doubt that young women join the U.S. Army having even the most remote thought that they would be standing next to a man in a shower. Well, but that's okay, because the man thinks he's a woman. The man believes he's a woman. That makes it okay, doesn't it? We're letting... There's a phrase that used to be, I don't hear it so much anymore, about the inmates running the asylum, or the patients running the asylum. Is that what's happening here? We're allowing mentally ill people to openly serve, to serve at all, openly or not. Men who believe that they're women, women who think that they're men, and they go so far as to start surgical and chemical, pharmaceutical procedures, protocols to transform themselves from a man into a woman, to transform themselves from a woman to a man. Mentally ill people, by definition. Oh, they took that out of the book. That's right. I mentioned that last hour, didn't I? Well, just because they cut the pages out doesn't mean they're no longer mentally ill. It just means the pages from the book diagnosing mental illness is gone. That's all that means. That's all it means. In the meantime, the young men in the military have to put up with female officers. I was never in that position. I'm not sure what I would have done. In the reserves, in a non-combat situation, I probably would have just sucked it up and put up with it. Going to combat with a female officer in command, I would not want to be in that position. I would not. I would request a transfer, do whatever it took to get out of that unit and to get into a unit that did not have a female officer in charge of things. Whatever it took, I would do that to get out of there. That's what I would do. If you have a question or comment, we got open lines at 800-313-9443. This transition of integrating women into the Corps has been going on so long that it's become an accepted part, unfortunately, in many parts of the military, accepted as being the new normal. The men I served with in Vietnam, the men I served with in Special Forces, unless you're around a bunch of the kind of Green Berets I was around, you don't know what sexism is. You really don't have a clue what sexism is until you've been around these men. You can guess, you can speculate, but you don't know how ingrained and how strong and how prevalent sexism is in the U.S. Army Special Forces when I was in there. I don't know what's changed. I've been around the active duty guys or in the reserves for decades. I still socialize with former Green Berets, but they're pretty much guys like myself and some even older. So that hasn't changed. But I was talking to Tim Spencer the other day about how shocked we all were that healthy young men serving on a submarine with healthy young women figured out how to photograph the healthy young attractive women while they were taking showers and on board the submarine. Shock, shock, surprise, surprise. And these aircraft carriers, they're small cities, 5,000 men and women out there for months at a time. It's a fantasy to believe that military order and discipline can overcome a million years plus of the way we're wired biologically. Of course there's going to be romance and sexual interaction between these young men and women. I don't care what kind of orders they issue, that's going to happen. They will find a way. Of course they will find a way. And it's harmful to military discipline, esprit de corps, and the mission to have women on board military ships, in military units, combat units, anywhere except the medical corps, where they've been serving with honor and distinction for many, many decades. That's where they belong. That's where they perform the best. That's where they should be, doing what they do best, being protected to the best of our ability. And I know that I read General Wainwright's autobiography, which focused primarily on the defenses there and the capture and internment of him and his men at Bataan in the Philippines. And he'd say the reason why they surrendered to the Japanese, it was because of the 300 or so nurses that they had. They wanted to protect the nurses. That's why they surrendered. They weren't going to surrender. Not as soon as they did, anyway. They would have held out, we don't know how much longer, against the Japanese invasion. But he went ahead and made the decision and surrendered his command to the Japanese Imperial Army because of the female nurses. And I can't disagree with that. That was the right thing to do. Of course it's the right thing to do, is protect the women and make sure no harm comes to them. It was defeat, a humiliating defeat for the U.S. Army to have to surrender to the Japanese Imperial Army there in the Philippines in 1942. But it was the right thing. And I'm sure he had no regrets for doing the right thing. I dated the daughter of a man who was in the Philippines. Well, I didn't date her. We were friends. I would like to have dated her. But she was the daughter of a Filipino sergeant who was in the Bataan Death March. And at the time, he was a basic training sergeant at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And I happened one day to observe him marching his basic training outfit past me, and they all had fixed bayonets on their M16s, with no scabbards, by the way. I'd never seen that before or after that particular time. And I thought to myself at the time, these young troopers, when they graduate from basic training, they will be warriors, because their drill sergeant survived the Bataan Death March, and he was a warrior, a true warrior. And you can be most certain that I was extended his daughter every courtesy and treated her as a princess, as I knew her father, and I knew he was a warrior, and it was the right thing to do. It's sad, is one of the emotions that come up when I think about this. It's sad what we've done to ourselves, what we've done to our military. The officers who spoke up initially about the integration of women into the Corps, their careers were over relatively quickly. And the word got around pretty quick. If you're an officer and you speak up against the women being in the military, your career is going to be over. There goes your paycheck, there goes your pension, there goes your life. Out the window. Because you spoke up, you did the right thing. So after those few that did speak up and did ruin their careers, pretty much everybody else fell in the line and kept their mouth shut. That's been 30 years ago, by the way. That was in the late 80s when these guys were speaking up. So that's over. You know, speaking out when you're on active duty is a career killer. That's no secret. It literally kills your career. If you speak out against the integration of homosexuals into the military, the integration of women into the military, if you point out the fact that these women simply can't perform, we pretend that they can. It's a fantasy. These young women, they grow up watching movies where in Hollywood a woman can apparently become a Navy SEAL. That only happens in Hollywood. I don't believe there's any female Navy SEALs yet. I have to look into that. I have several friends that are former Navy SEAls. They probably stay more on top of that than I do. My one friend, he got to Vietnam as a Navy SEAL at age 17. I said, Roger, they can't do that. He said, well, they did, John. I wasn't even 18 years old. I got through training. I was already in Vietnam as a Navy SEAL. He left when he was 21 years old. putting these young women grow up because of the influence of schools, Hollywood, movies and TV shows, thinking and believing they can do what men can do? It has to be a very rude and crude wake-up call to find out that they can't. If they really do believe that, I don't know how many women could reach the age of adulthood, 18 years old, and actually believe that true. Yeah. It's a fantasy. It's a politically correct fantasy that will not have a good outcome. It's already had no good outcome for the women, the American women in Afghanistan and Iraq who were killed and wounded, leaving parts of their body behind in Iraq and Afghanistan, being blown up and shot up by the Mujahideen and the jihadists and the Muslims. I go back to that photograph I mentioned earlier where these 16 or so women are smiling and just appear to be happy. Well, they're alive. That would be a good reason to be happy, wouldn't it? You can get by with a prosthetic leg or foot and have a more or less normal life and do the things that normal people do. Of course you can. But what's the point? Why are we even putting our young women in that position where they stand a chance of being wounded or killed? What are we doing to ourselves? How do we stop it? Well, I'll be talking to, like I said, Command Sergeant Major Page about testifying before the House Armed Services Committee to see if he would consider doing that. I don't know if he would or not. I don't believe my testimony would amount to a hill of beans, but Command Sergeant Major Page in his dress uniform would certainly have an impact. I don't know how much good it would do, but they would. You see Command Sergeant Major Page in his uniform, you're going to pay attention. You're going to pay attention. You'll have no choice to pay attention. This is a man who's been there, done that, got the T-shirt many, many times. Spent a year of his life in Central Africa documenting what the Communist Chinese are doing in Central Africa. They're basically colonizing Central Africa, in case you don't know it, with a highway going all the way back to China from Central Africa. They're considering building a causeway across the Red Sea to cut down about 20 hours of drive time. They're doing that as we speak. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 22nd of March. If, and it may be a matter of when, but if the Selective Service comes back into effect and they commence drafting young men again, they will be drafting women. I have, you can go to any post office in the United States. They all have the cards for young men to sign up for the draft. If you don't see it on the counter, you ask and they'll give you one. And I always keep one of these cards handy when I go to various public appearances. And I point out that there's 2 blocks for the 18-year-old person to check off, one block or the other, male or female. Now, why are those 2 blocks there? To check off if you're a man or a woman. It's been there for decades. Well, there can only be one possible reason. There's no second reason. There's no optional reason. There's only one reason. They fully intend to draft women. It's not a typographical error to have those 2 boxes on there. They're on there for a reason. They have no choice because they will be drafting women along with men. Let that sink in. forcing young women against their will into the U.S. Army, or possibly the Marines. I know there was such a shortage of Marines during Vietnam that Marines, in fact, were drafted. There were draftees going to the U.S. Marine Corps. Yes, there were. In case you don't know it, I saw this happen firsthand when I was going through my enlistment procedure. I was not drafted. I volunteered for a 3-year tour of duty. But I did see guys in line get picked out by the Marine Corps to become Marines down there at the Induction Center in St. Louis, Missouri. I did see that firsthand. So yes, there were draftees in the U.S. Marines back then. I simply had the manpower requirements I couldn't fill any other way. And if the Selective Service is put back into action, drafting Americans, they will be drafting women. They will. You can count on it. The pushback from that, I can only imagine what the pushback would be. I think in my area, in south central Missouri, it will be immediate and it will be severe. That's my prediction. Immediate and severe pushback against women being drafted into this military. As well it should be. We don't have time for many calls here. Tomorrow I'll be on the road. Tim Spencer will be sitting in for me. We'll have Tom Berryhill the first hour and Dr. Phil Myers the second hour. And like I say, Tim Spencer will be carrying the show on my behalf because I'll be on the road headed to the Hear the Watchman Conference in Dallas, Texas. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of you there. It'll be a fun event. The top names, literally the top names in the alternative media. Men and women that you've heard and listened to many, many times. It'll be a fun event. I will be the keynote speaker on Saturday, and looking forward to meeting a lot of you there. Yes, there's a discount code. If you want a $20 discount off the ticket, it's at my website at libertyman.com. That's it for the day. For me, it's it for the week. Get your medical supplies, your energy cleaning, your essential oils now while you can, your firearms ammunition. Never, ever give up the guns. Please do have a fun, safe, productive day, and God bless America.